A Way of Life is a coaching consultant company. We help people manage their career and business using astrology. Astrology is a holistic process that allows us to help people align with what they are passionate about. We provide the tools to build your personal development to live your best life. A Way of Life coaching consulting company. For a reading or coaching, call Keisha Reed at 781-602-0986. That's 781-602-0986. Or check our website, www.awayoflife.net. That's www.awayoflife.net. A Way of Life is a coaching consultant company. Live your best life.
Peace, 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 family. How's everybody doing today? I'm going to be coming on here to talk about Pluto entering Aquarius. Now, this transit doesn't happen until 2024, but the more I learn about astrology, the more I understand how these planets and different transits, kind of the domino effect of them, if you will, how they kind of predict the future. And that is by going back into the past. If that's one thing that I've learned about this Mercury retrograde, it's that, understanding the connections between what points and transits start things, or the activation of certain things that happen. So, we had the Great Conjunction at the end of 2020 in Aquarius. That was the 800-year cycle. That transit was something that hadn't happened for 800 years. And Saturn will leave Aquarius March of 2023 for a couple of months and then go back into Capricorn, activating that conjunction until January of 2024, when Pluto will enter Aquarius for the next 20 years. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. We're going to break this down. We're going to do some generational, Pluto and its generational signs, and kind of get some history so that we can understand what's playing out here, what has happened in the past when these things come up, and, where this could possibly be taking us in 2024. So before I get into that, you already know I got to do my announcements and just talk about what has been going on with A Way of Life. Is a lot. So as you may or may not know, we launched our wine cellar. So you can go check out the website. That is awayoflife.net. And you can see the wine cellar there. It'll take you right to my wine cellar page where you can see all the collection of wines that we have. We're selling clean crafted wine, no preservatives and synthetic free, so you can have fun without the headaches. And you can follow us for all updates on different events that we'll be doing. We have one coming up on the 26th. That's our very first event on the 26th, or the 25th, rather, that Friday, the 25th at 6 p.m. with Tierra at A Day of Royalty. I'm so excited about this event. It's a sip and self-care event, so we're going to be talking about different, self-care tips for the wine. And Miss Tierra is going to be talking about her spa kits that she has, her traveling spa kits, which is so exciting. I can't wait to hear about it. And many, many more things we'll be announcing at that time. So if you want to follow us there, for all our events, it's A Wine Way of Life. And I put it right up there on the screen so everybody can see. And we have the astrology page, which is, I'm getting better at structuring this. So, but basically what we're going to do is start to post things where we're learning how to break down these bigger lives that I do. So what I'm going to try to do more consistently is break down that information. Although it's already there, I just think it's not connected to what it is I'm doing. So getting a little bit more structure around that. So as we're talking about the generational planets signs for Pluto, I actually do have that on my IG page. And for more about that, you definitely want to follow us on A Way of Life, the number 5. And again, life is spelled Lyfe. And you can find all the generations of Pluto. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in here. And I'll break that down for everybody. And then also we are promoting from now until October for the Life Path coaching class. So, and I got to stop saying class, it's a workshop. So what we do with that is help people find their mission in this lifetime, right? Using their birth chart. And so what I'll have small little videos for people to watch in reference to their birth chart and their life path. And you can take notes down to help you structure and map out how you are going to work these things within your life. So your goals, your plans, and then I have a bunch of different resources for people to tap into to help them, on their journey and enforcing this stuff and within your daily life. So I'm really, really excited about all this stuff to come. So without further ado, we are going to get into Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, sis, with the good up nails. Oh, you like the nails? I've been trying to do my colors for my business. I had green last time, and now I got yellow. So thank you so much. I'm trying, Rebel. I'm trying. But all right, where's my notes at? Because y'all know without my notes, I am all over the place. So you already know, and I did a whole series about Pluto, by the way, last year when Pluto was in Capricorn. And I talked about Pluto there, but just for the sake of discussion, we'll be breaking it down, but not as in depth. So if you want to get more understanding of Pluto and how that works, you can definitely go check out any one of my videos I did last year where I really, really talk about Pluto and break it down. But we're going to do some more here too. But you already know whatever Pluto touches, it wants to break it down to its simplest form to rebuild it back up. And because Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius, it's going to bring that strong rebellion and changes. And that's going to take a lot for people to get used to, because these changes they're not, for one, most of these transits are going to be all air transits, which we've never had. And two, the outer planets, and I'm going to do more posts on that as well. The generational planets take longer to go through. So some people can live a whole lifetime and not experience the entire lesson of Pluto because it takes 240 years to complete one orbit. So it's harder to learn that lesson and what it's trying to teach you. So being patient with yourself and flexible, like that, all that air energy is going to be crucial to understanding in your daily life, and with all these changes that are coming up with Uranus in general, because Uranus is like unexpected events, unexpected shocking events at that come out of nowhere, so you never really know with Pluto. I think that with Uranus, I think that's going to be the interesting part for astrologers, because it's going to be like, well, you just don't know what's going to happen with Uranus. It's a hit or miss. You know what I mean? So it's always interesting to kind of see these things as they play out, but it's definitely going to be a hard time for a lot of people. And then Pluto entered Capricorn back in 2008, and we had the financial crisis back then. And since then, I feel like we've kind of been experiencing political and human turmoil on a global scale. Now we're entering a new era with the social revolution shaking up the global understanding in a very new way that I don't think any of us are really seeing right now. Like I think we like people got ideas, right? Because they've been talking about it for so long, especially when you hear people like talking about going to Mars and things of that nature. But I don't think we actually really know how new this is going to be. You know, like we're not going back to normal. I'm pretty sure I said that 1,000 times. I can't stress that enough. But Pluto is the god of the underworld. Or another way to look at it is it's a fire underground where the wicked go for being punished after death. Pluto wants to purify things to come back as their inner self. So this can also be seen as, you know, that death and rebirth process that Pluto also represents. You know, that's just another way to look at it. Also, you can look at it as people who don't necessarily have to die and come back, but like people who have certain situations or things or circumstances within their life that play out, and they go through that one moment where they're like looking at themselves like, oh wow, the negative patterns in my life are coming from me. You know, the suffering that I'm enduring is because I'm in this cycle of repetitiveness and not trying something different to get out. You know, that's a Pluto return somewhere in your chart, or a Pluto activation somewhere in your chart, where you begin to see things from that higher perspective, you know, the Phoenix rising energy, and you start to see things differently, and then you're able to make the changes. Because Pluto also rules like jealousy and kind of those toxic behaviors, if you will. It could also be seen as the fallen angel that finds himself realizing his part that he's playing in his life, from being jealous or hateful, or, you know, having these kind of feelings about somebody. That's literally the story of the devil, by the way, right? Luther, Morning Star. I don't know if anybody's watched that show. I actually talked about that in a lot of my videos when I talked about Pluto last year. That's a really, really good show to watch, how the story of the devil, so that we can kind of change this notion that, you know, that's some kind of bad thing. Actually, if you want to get technical, the god of the underworld, the devil, is the person who kind of reprimands the devil that we blame him for being, not the other way around. You know, like it's us that has these kind of negative bad patterns. And when you go to the underworld, or you're being called to your shadow self, perhaps, you know, is where you kind of get the understanding or the purification of the release of all those bad negative things that we kind of blame the devil for. And that is his story. If you really go back and read it and understand it from the appropriate perspective, he's the fallen angel. And because he fell from earth, the gods kicked him out of heaven because he hated humans so much. So to show him, or to give him, to punish him, what he had to do was come down here and live out, and to really see what it was. And remember, if you watch that show, you go back, he ended up falling in love with a human, right? And so, you know, just another perspective to consider while you're thinking about, you know, Pluto and what role it plays within your life, especially when we're doing astrology. So if you follow me, you know, I did a series on the gods where I talked about those, because a lot of those times those stories are playing out within our birth chart, you know, but because we're not taught, you know, the truth, really, you know, we sometimes have different perspectives about what that really is or what it means. So So actually, his story is about the purification of something, something bad, not necessarily that there is bad technically. I mean, first of all, nobody's born into this world a bad person. They learn it from somewhere or something in their environment. Let's just get that back straight. And so, the the underworld, the devil, if you will, is the person who kind of turns that situation around or helps people turn those situations around. But anyways, this is overall, it's the release of toxins, quite literally. Pluto also rules your bowel movements. So when you're doing like a cleanse, this is where this process takes place. Or again, the toxic behaviors to the purification of your sins, if you will. Pluto is also the secrets, the shadow self, what's going on underneath, deep within inside us, like the subconscious or unconscious things that we learn from childhood, or patterns that we learn from childhood, the hidden aspects of ourselves. So this could also be related to like somebody having a secret life, or just being very secretive, and shadow governments, right? Pluto was discovered in 1930, and it was in Cancer at the time, which was when the Great Depression was going on. A lot of people were unemployed, were in poverty, and there was a lot of despair at that time. And then we have Cancer, which rules, security, financial security, the nurturance of something, someone. Perhaps people weren't able to do those types of things because they didn't really have the means to live in a manner that they could. Although I've spoken to people about this time, and they was like, they didn't even know the Great Depression was a huge thing because they were already poor. So there's always two sides of the story, but home and family. So there could have been a lot of destruction within those themes playing out in people's lives at that time. And then Pluto moved into Leo in 1938, which was the Second World War. This was also when Hollywood was born. So television, rock and roll, and the baby boomers. This is the age of the baby boomers. I wonder what age is that, 1930? I wonder what age that was. I should have did the math for that, but so this age group is probably the ones who are at the forefront right now. This is important because Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius. So somehow, some way, that age group or things that were happening around people who were in the war, maybe they could be coming out telling their stories, or we can hear about solutions for people at that time, or solutions about things that were happening at that time that are now being resolved. Or it could be the opposite, because remember, Pluto wants to destroy. So Pluto could also be taking people out. So we already know Hollywood, or let's just keep it real, America in general is in detriment, right? And so Hollywood could be falling down. Television could change in a dramatic way. And then music can even change in a dramatic way. Or, the people who are in power for those things, this could be the fall of those people. And then the baby boomers, perhaps people who didn't quite have those opportunities, somehow, some way get opportunities. I think I talked about this like this much, like not even enough. I remember saying that I was going to go live to talk about it. Those damn Leos. Very interesting. The Bible does talk about fallen angels mating with humans. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That they talk about that in that show. It's so interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a really, really, really good show. Um, and I didn't talk about it in depth. I meant to. I know that I said I was going to go do a live to talk about how when Jupiter goes into Pisces. Now, I did a whole video on Jupiter entering into Pisces, and we know Pisces, for one, was the age that we're coming out of. What show? Lucifer. Lucifer is the name of the show. So Pisces is the age that we're recently coming out of. And Pisces also rules religion and Hollywood, right? So I remember talking about those things within that live that I did. But what I didn't talk about is because Jupiter always wants to give something back, or whatever it touches, it expands, but it's about luck and, this kind of higher giving energy. So another way that I see this playing out is that, like, the people who ruled Hollywood, rock and roll, television are going to fall from their positions, and other people will start to have more freedom within those things, because that's what Jupiter is really going. I felt this very heavily, that we could see a lot more people asking to own their own rights to their music, their art, movies, their written talents, even acting. I would say that people are going to try to find a way to be able to own their own rights to that, because I think, we know, what was I watching with this guy? He broke it down so well, actually, which was pretty amazing to watch. I literally remember saying to myself like a month ago that I don't know why Red Pill and Blue Pill haven't met with Dr. Boyce Watkins, because they're like, it would just be a magical connection. And they just did a live, like a day or two ago, with Dr. Boyce Watkins. But he was talking about how the digitization of the money, of the coin, is going to decentralize banking. That's really going to help people own their own rights to things. I seen another guy on that show where he was talking about EFTs, and I could be mixing up the words, I don't know. But he was talking about his art and how EFTs, which is a digitization of money, some coin, some cryptocurrency, where people can buy or sell their art now, but it's there. So like what it does, it almost acts as like one of those savings accounts. I know there's a name for it, but they're like accounts where you buy something or you have some kind of money within it, and it puts away money or gives interest, or even like if somebody buys something from that specific thing, or whatever that is, whether it's art, music, whatever, that you get the proceeds off of that, if that makes sense at all. So in some sense, he was just talking about how that's generational wealth now, because no matter where it goes, even if it's resold or the story's retold or whatever, that he's always going to get some kind of profit off of it, because that's how that money works. It's not necessarily it's some kind of system that decentralizes somehow. And I hope that I'm explaining that right, but that's the beauty of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and why, obviously America's like gung-ho on not letting that be a thing. But it says, they started it from the latest series on Netflix. Yes, I will start watching it properly when they have series 1. Yes. You got to tell me what you think too. It's actually very funny. They did a good job. I was actually that was one of the shows that I would watch over and over again. But so yeah, I think we can see a lot of that playing out, and then I think we can see that as soon as next year, because that's when Jupiter will be in Pisces. So again, some kind of control a loss of control perhaps, and it's given back to humanity in some kind of way. We can see this playing out at that time. I also think more famous people will downsize their homes, and I think I talked about that in one of my webinars that I did when this was all. I think I did that for I think that was for the beginning of the cycle between Gemini and Sagittarius. But yeah. And then Pluto went into Virgo in the 60s when sexuality was liberated and the conception pill was passed. I'm pretty sure we all remember that. And it was a great loss because JFK and Martin Luther King was assassinated. And obviously the civil rights movement was a huge thing. So we can definitely see that being played out in some kind of way, especially when we're talking about owning our rights to things. So there could be more uproar, rioting, protests about certain things, or laws that they try to change, or taxing things, so that, you know, they got to keep their hand over our head, you know. And that's one way that they can do that. So people could really be fighting over things of that nature. And then Pluto went into Libra in 1972, which was around marriage, partnerships, and divorce. I think those were the latchkey kids. So there was probably a lot of laws about legislation around those themes that came up at that time. Definitely, I remember some... what was it? The homes, I think, became single parents. There was a lot of single parenting at that time. Yeah. And so, and then Pluto went into Scorpio in 1984, which was about sexual transmitted diseases and death, which was the AIDS epidemic, right? We all remember that. And so we could see some things about that. So probably more things about the virus or something new coming up. I don't know. We'll see. But and then Pluto went into Sagittarius in 1995, which was when the world religious beliefs started falling apart, because all those secrets about what the priests and nuns were doing got revealed. I think they also, at that time, a lot of like extremist religious groups was formed for various different reasons, or people just like breaking out and doing different things, or perhaps people's beliefs and religious beliefs changed because of all of that. But then back to Capricorn, you know, which I talked about at the very beginning of this live, and all last year. You can go back and watch any video. I don't think there's not one time where I didn't talk about Capricorn, because we had the stellium of planets in there. I think we had like 6 planets in Capricorn for almost the whole year. It was crazy. But which was about corruption and big business and financial imbalance to the wealthy and the common folk, which I still, every time this subject comes up, I get a little rattled. I got to remind myself to be cool, because I really think that we need to change that narrative. Like, we really need to stop telling that story. So is Pluto the bad planet? It's not easy though. That's what I will say, because like any habit, if you could imagine, you got something that you learned from childhood. I don't know. Maybe it was about your beliefs around how often you wash up. I don't know. I'm making it up. And then you get to this age where you're like, oh, well, my arms are really dark, or, you know, whatever happens when you don't wash up that often really becomes clear to you as you get older. And you're like, and you're learning from that process that you learned way back when was probably not the best. And that, you know, some people can say different things about that, but that was just what came to my mind. Okay. The bottom line is, it's going to be hard for you to undo or unthink or unbelieve that process somehow was not really at the best the best to your knowledge, that you had to learn something, that you have to undo whatever that is. And sometimes it's not even about undoing it. Perhaps it's just about how you do your aftercare then, if that's not what you choose to do, and kind of what products you use. But some kind of evolution of that process becomes real, and you see it from a different perspective that somehow either allows you to change, to evolve as a better, healthier person, or that you learn something from it and you end up adding something additional to your evolution at that time. So it's all about perspective, right? And granted, it's just not easy to change at all, no matter what you're doing, even if it's something that simple. And I think that's what people why people say that planet Pluto is such a bad planet, is because it usually comes with something that's so deep that it hurts to change, or it's hard to change, or it's hard not to believe that certain thing anymore. And then it comes with death, right? So, it's hard to lose somebody, especially somebody that you're close to and you've been with for years. And, so those kind of themes, I think, is what makes it so hard. It's so hard. It's a harsh planet, and depending on where it is on a personal level within your chart really changes the themes of what that looks like and what it's around and what it's about. And it's difficult in different houses because Pluto doesn't really go well with everything, just like every other planet. And that's when it starts to get real funky, because you're like, Keisha, you're telling me this isn't really bad, but I'm in pain here. So, it depends on the person. It depends on the situation and what they're going through. I will say, and never change, that, it's a tough planet for sure. I don't care what it is. Even if it's something as small as I didn't paint my nails and now I got to start painting my nails. Why? Either way, it's so deep. It's just like one of those things that it's hurtful, right? It's emotional. It's a water sign at the end of the day. I hope that made sense. Because I was just rambling. Because it could be so many different things. It's always so hard when you're speaking about it from a generalization, which is why I talk about it in this format, in this setting, to hope that I expand the different ways in which Pluto plays out in our lives and how painful it can be and why people associate Pluto with pain. Back to us changing the idea about the wealthy versus the common folk. I don't want to make it seem like that's not true. Yes, it did. Thank you. It sounds like it makes you reassess. Yes, for sure. I feel like that story around the wealthier being wealthier and the poor people being poor is very real, right? I don't want to discard that idea. However, what I will say is that at some point, now that we've gotten to the point that we understand that that's very real, even when you start to break that down and understand it from a certain perspective, you begin to understand that, yes, it was real, but I had the opportunity to do that too, but nobody taught me, right? Because it's not like these structures and systems were set up for common folk to excel to that level, right? And so now we know that you can go out there and learn it. It was just kept from you. Then you change the way you learn. You change the way you understand money and understand it from a different perspective that can help you get to that level. And I feel like this part right here can really give a great description as to why Pluto is so hard. Because I think even today, if we're being honest, that even though people know that, like, you can get online with somebody, anybody, and have this conversation about how the wealthier are wealthier and the rich stay rich, and that's how this system was set up to keep us this way. We're not talking about solutions, and we're certainly not making actions on how to get out of that process. So we're still stuck in some kind of way. And at some point, we're going to have to wake up to the fact that we control our lives now. Now, I always have, right? So we have to have these conversations with action and solutions, and not just having a conversation, because the more we stay in that repetitive cycle, the more we don't change our story. And I think even in that sense, you can say that Pluto also rules over fear, our fears that hold us back from being successful, from evolving into beings who are worthy of having wealth. That, to me, right there, is our biggest fight. Because you will have people have these conversations and still swear up and down that money's not that important. It's not about the money. We don't need that to be great people, and rightfully so. I'm being so honest when I say that those points are still valid. But the one thing you cannot combat is that we still have generations who are born into this world who still have to struggle because we don't have money, because we don't save money, because we don't think about it. We think it's not important, and all these other things it blows my mind that we're still stuck here. And I get it. Like, I understand the frustration or the reasons why we don't even want to associate with it. But it doesn't change the fact that our kids are still suffering because of the choices that we're making. We have to change that process. We have to understand it from a different perspective so that we can grow. This gets me so angry. You can see that, right? I'm so angry about this. Like, if we're not going to change it, we might as well not have the conversations. Because at the same time, we're still putting words are spells, right? We know that. We can have a conversation about that, and everybody will agree on the same level that shit's true and is real. But nobody's changing their words. Nobody's changing those conversations to conflict resolution, solutions. You know what I'm saying? Like, it blows my fucking mind. And honestly, I can't. Like, I'm so over it right now. Yes, it did. Keyword, we can't do it alone. It's true. She's laughing at me. If that doesn't explain what Pluto is on a grand scale, like, we are stuck in that ideology and that mindset of that low, like, we're not worthy of being rich, or we're not worthy of being wealthy because it's associated with wealthy people, and wealth, we know they're assholes, right? They're assholes. That whole process predicated upon wealth is just like, oh, I don't need, and I get it. But the great thing about that is when you become wealthy, you actually get to make the decisions on who you're going to be as a wealthy person. You can choose who you want to give your money to. You can choose where that money goes to. You can choose how that looks in your life. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's just changing the subject. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the subject right now. But I think at the end of the day, that part right there is what keeps us stuck in this low frequency of not evolving. And I'm telling you right now, Aquarius is coming in and it's going to make you do it. That's why all these structures are falling. And now you can't depend on your day-to-day 9 to 5, your work. That's going away. It's going to take away all those safe havens, I guess, is a great way to say it. And if you don't start making the changes, then that's when Pluto gets real fickle. Because you're not here to stay in this position to feel like you're not worthy. That's not why you were put here. They got that in the Bible, and people still to this day believe up and down that the Bible, religion is so great, yet they're not even following that they deserve that greatness. Another thing that blows my mind. But I think if you don't make the change, that's when Pluto starts to get where we could say, quote unquote, bad, is because it can put you in detriment. You can literally go crazy. What situations have I seen or be broke or poor, um, um, or being unhappy, right? Which is where I think that whole fake it till you make it ideology came in, even though it does help some people. But that whole process of pretending like you're great, but deep down inside, remember, Pluto is about your deepest desires. What makes you truly unapologetically happy? And if you're going around here pretending and you're only hurting yourself, listen to where it's coming from, your deepest inner desire. So you really only hurt yourself here. It's and it doesn't do you any detriment. That's why we're dying at an early age, because we're not healing from these situations in ways that allow us to evolve. We have to change those things within us that say that we don't deserve these things. How are we supposed to do that, Keisha? There are multiple ways that you can do that, but it starts within you starting to believe that and actually taking action steps to go do that. Stop not going to get counseling. You know what I mean? You don't have to tell the whole world. That's your business. That's what you do behind closed doors that people can't see. I can say so much before I start getting in here swearing, because this is something that honestly, when I tell you, it is one thing that surely gets me all riled up. And more than anything, not because I'm riled up because I'm angry, but I'm riled up because I see so many great people with great potential, and they are in pain and they're not succeeding because they're not taking control of their life. They don't feel like they are worthy of doing so. And it's not true. Nobody was put here to suffer on that level. Nobody. I don't care what your life has put you through. And all right. I'm going to change the subject now, Keisha. I have to go now, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. Enjoy the rest of your day, sweetie. You're so welcome. Peace, Queen. All right. So I think that's the one thing that's going to be the hardest here for us, especially if we're talking about bringing us together. You cannot build with the people who haven't healed. You can't build with people who don't understand even how they fit within this world. Remember, Pluto in Capricorn was all about your mission. That's what Capricorn rules. It's the 10th house. So when I'm doing a reading for somebody, and I'm looking at their chart, the 10th house and the nodes, amongst a few other things, but the 10th house is your mission, your purpose in this lifetime, and what that looks like, and how these things are supposed to play out for you within your life. And that's kind of what last year was really all about, was like calling us to elevate to what makes us truly happy, unapologetically happy, because it's Pluto, it's our deepest desire. So when Pluto goes into Aquarius, which is all about the people, in 2023, these things are going to be necessary. So I feel like those are the things why people say Pluto is a difficult planet, because that change is going to be really, really hard for us if we're not taking the steps to grow and elevate. It also might be helpful if we go back and look at the last time Pluto took place in Aquarius, which was 1778 to 1797, which was when the U.S. declared independence. I think that was 1776 to be exact. Some of the things that were going on there is the British were in retreat. The French Revolution was going on, and that same theme was happening in other countries. The Spanish, the Dutch, and the Indians were also fighting. And Uranus was discovered while in the sign of Gemini at that time, which it will be back in Gemini in 2024 and 2025, which I found very interesting. So these themes somehow can be playing out Again, around like science, chemistry, astrology, the exploration of different parts of the world. If you've ever seen my video where I talked about Benjamin Banneker, who was like the founder of astrology, the time clock, the watch, not time, just the watch and the clock. And he also helped the blueprint. He did the blueprint for the White House, and he used the stars to do that. I don't know. I don't even know if you can find that story anywhere. But it was interesting to me to find out that Uranus was in Gemini, which is why astrology is so astrology. Before astrology was born, it was just astronomy, which was just about the planets, right? And astrology is the mundane breakdown of how the planets work. And Gemini is about, everyday, day-to-day things. So I found that very interesting. I did not know that before I started doing this research. So that was very interesting. And I was like, that makes so much sense. But back then, people didn't want the monarchy. So that was like the fight for democracy at that time. So when Pluto moves into Aquarius in 2023, there can be a fight for freedom or independence in some way. And I talked about, I talked about how I was watching Dr. Boyce Watkins' show, and Red Pill and Blue Pill were talking about, that having the decentralization of money happen and the importance of that. I think that theme is going to be really, really big. And there could be a whole bunch going on about that. There could be an awakening to coming together in order to evolve. So like building smaller governments, communities, or the government will do this. Actually, another thing that they talked about in that live was the state ID. I don't know if anybody's even heard anything about it, but that was actually supposed to happen in 2020. And because of the pandemic, it never happened. So they could reformulate this idea. So from how I understand it is that it has a lot to do with how we're able to travel from even state to state and not country to country, which makes sense because it happened during the Gemini Sagittarius axis. And Gemini is about neighborhoods in your communities and exchange within in the country. And that could be something that comes up where you can't travel without it, or they kind of have like vaccines and that ID and something around passports that come up around that could cause some uproar. But just remembering when you do build with other people that everybody specializes in every field, so that each circle can, like small communities or smaller governments, so that you can have a full economy. But I also think that this is an indication that other countries are going to leave American European connections, because remember in the beginning of the video I mentioned that this transit was going to activate the conjunction we had, the great conjunction we had at the end of 2020, which was when I think that was Brexit, right? So America is also having their Saturn return, and I haven't done a video about that, but I will be doing a video on Pluto return at some point, maybe after the following week, and break that down for what this means for specifically America, the Pluto return for America. So that's an indication of a completion of a cycle, but also could be that other countries leave because they believe that they'll save money, which is what everyone is going to realize in a sense in all areas of life. I think businesses will go fully remote because they're going to save on overhead. This is what people are going to start to realize. People will invest in smaller homes. I talked about that with the Jupiter and Pisces energy, because, somehow, some way, money is going to change. The value of money is going to change. And so people will have to be more economical with Uranus being in Taurus. And I talked about that in my webinar. I broke all that down. And stock portfolios will change as well. I think there'll be more on that scientific, new age technology and things of that nature. So knowing that's going to be super important. And so you'll have to change your portfolio so that you can keep up with how your money's, keeping your money right. And that's also an indication that shows that people have the power, because if we're not buying into these certain things, then you can see, like right now, technology is not that popular. And that's what investment really shows us, which is another tool on how I break it down and help people through their coaching on these workshops so that they can understand the importance of having a budget and knowing where your money goes and what you're buying into. But I learned that through learning investments and how to invest and what businesses to start, by way of what's mainstream, if you will. But another way to look at that is to understand how money plays, how the people can really have control, and not so much the other way around. Because if you're not buying into that, that thing's not going to excel. So right now, technology stocks aren't doing so well, not yet, the way they will be with the new age of the new digital age. But just to understand that, the things that are popping are the things that we're buying on a consistent basis. So if we change that, then we change the way that portfolio looks. But I think you could have possibly seen that through the changes that took place last year, because now they got commercials on remote learning and remote working and all these other things. The ads, they're not commercials. The ads, like on YouTube and all this other stuff, which I found very interesting, how they started switching up on small businesses and all those other things when everything kind of shut down. They paid attention to what we was doing, and then started making more advertisements for those things. But there could be opportunities to travel to other planets and life forms, even having communication with other life forms. Time travel, air travel is going to change. I think apps are going to take over the world. No more laptops, but smaller devices somehow, some way will have, like chips. I think I talked about that in my webinar too, that they'll want to put like chips on us, or some kind of way that we can, like, you can like pass a person and see their whole life being displayed on your phone or your tablet or whatever device you have. Just more digitized. Everything's going to be more digitized, and communication devices are going to change on a pretty big level. Talked about that. So Uranus was in Gemini in the 1800s, which was the Industrial Revolution. And electricity was discovered at that time. So there can be something around that changing to solar energy. Again, something scientific and how we can save with Uranus and Taurus. I actually believe there'll be some pretty drastic changes to astrology, or it'll come back into practice the way it was. And AI is going to become a big thing. Like robots doing all the, doing the taking over the stores, if you will. And I don't even know if takeover is the right word, but again, people aren't working, so somebody's got to do it. So they could have a lot of robots doing that now, somehow, some way. And small businesses are going to be what people are doing for income now. Um, so I can definitely see astrology playing a major role in that. People are going to be like, well, I don't know what the heck to do outside of, what was being offered before that. So they're going to need help with their life path, finding out their life mission and how to plan around those types of things. I can definitely see those things being played out on a major scale. And just another reason why, it's going to be so important to learn astrology, perhaps in some way, shape, or form, or, continue to do the work, the healing work, to get to know who you are, because you're not going to have these structures to kind of fall back on. So how can you change perhaps what you do, the knowledge and education that you have, into some kind of business for yourself? And then I also talked about how the multi-level marketing things are going to come in real handy for these types of things, although got to be careful with what fields they're in, especially because travel is going to change. It'll be very interesting to see how travel changes over time, but all kind of the restrictions that come with that. But you got to know the industry and what's going to be in and what's going to be out too, to know how well you're going to do or where else to get that money from. So investing also could become very important for people to know, having those kind of residual incomes or things that you can kind of benefit off of no matter what you do, so that you can survive. So it'll be interesting if to see too if they'll keep doing the stimulus package, which from what I understand is what is causing super inflation. We're not even at inflation anymore. They're saying it's super inflation, which I found very interesting to see how that's going to be playing out, which I did talk about that in my Taurus entering Uranus video, but maybe back in 2018. But definitely finding ways to be more economical or ways to feed yourself, grow your own food, things of this nature could really come up and be very essential to us even surviving, forget about evolving. But overall, I do think that evolution is going to be like the biggest thing to help us kind of grow in some kind of way, because it's healthier. It's a healthier way. That's how things should have been. That's what I'm going to say. Just because it is more economical and we're not killing the earth with all the cars and the pollution from that, and all those types of things. So it'll be very interesting to see how this energy plays out. But either way, I'm excited to see. I will be doing the Capricorn full moon. That's going to prepare us more for getting structured and systems within our businesses or whatever was coming up for us for that Gemini eclipse that's happening next week, Thursday, I believe. And also, then the following week, I'll do the Pluto return in the U.S. chart. So you can see the connections that I'm making from all this Plutonian energy in the age of Aquarius and what could be coming down the line. So as usual, I hope that you found this information helpful. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. Check out the website so that you can stay updated to see what we're doing. And yeah, I hope this information was helpful. Peace.
A Way of Life is a coaching consultant company. We help people manage their career and business using astrology. Astrology is a holistic process that allows us to help people align with what they are passionate about. We provide the tools to build your personal development to live your best life. A Way of Life Coaching Consulting Company. For a reading or coaching, call Keisha Reed at 781-602-0986. That's 781-602-0986. Or check our website, www.awayoflife.net. That's www.awayoflife.net. A Way of Life is a coaching consultant company. Live your best life.